go to Mars not just to be a part of history, but to inspire people around the world.
The colonization of Mars is the adventure of the century.
Your Royal Highness, Your Excellency, and KHDA team, thank you for having me here. It's really an honor to talk in front of so many teachers and educators. My name is Mikolaj Zielinski, and I am one of those 100 candidates for a mission to Mars. Let me take the clicker. So Mars One project, as you may already guess, is a project that aims to establish a permanent colony on Mars and in long term to enable mankind to colonialize the planet. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Mars exploration and the project itself. So let's start with a picture of solar system. With our robotic probes, we visited almost all objects that you can see on this picture. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Moon, Mars, asteroid belts, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and also comets. We landed on comets. Of course, we didn't visit all asteroids in asteroid belt, but we know very well some of them, and we know their composition, everything. But this was only with robotic probes. If we think about man missions, we were only around Earth orbit. On this picture, it will be just millimeter above Earth, where we have International Space Station and the Moon. 500 people were in space, meaning in that International Space Orbit and some other stations. And just 24 people left the Earth orbit and went to Moon. 12 of them landed on the Moon, and that's it. And now we want to go to Mars. So what do we know so far about Mars? We know much more than astronauts, NASA astronauts during Apollo program knew about the Moon. We know that it's a very harsh environment there. There is no oxygen. There's no air as we have on Earth. The air on Mars is consisting on 95% of carbon dioxide and is 100 times thinner than on Earth, that Earth's atmosphere. So if we want to go there, we have to be able to produce breathable air, but it's possible. It's possible because we have water on Mars. This is one of the this is a picture made by a satellite. We have several satellites running around Mars. And we can see here something that looks like a crater. So probably a meteorite struck the ground, and underground water erupted onto the surface and frozen. You can also see a little bit of snow on the slope of the crater. So it shows that under Mars' surface there is plenty of water. And from other research, we know that a long time ago, when the planet was forming, or on the beginning of this planet, which was about 3 billion years ago, Mars was covered with an ocean. It was depending on scientists, they say that it's from a few hundred meters to 1.5 kilometers deep, and it covered probably a fifth part of the planet's surface. 80% of this water escaped to space because there is no atmosphere that could keep water like we have water circulation on Earth. But still a lot of water is there, and this water can be used for humans for drinking and also to produce breathable air. How do we know such things? This is another question. We've sent already to Mars several rovers and landers. Here you can see Curiosity rover, the most sophisticated rover sent to Mars so far, which helped us to discover, for example, that we have organic carbon on Mars, that we have minerals that on Earth form only in the presence of liquid water. This rover itself is in the place where a long time ago there was a lake. So it found little stones, oval stones that we see normally in rivers. So, okay. Apart from this rover and several other rovers and landers, the problem with rovers and landers is that they are very slow. This Curiosity rover is on Mars surface already for more than 2 years, and during this time covered the distance of 15, 17 kilometers. So one geologist could do it in 1 day. So that's why if we want to learn more about Mars, it's also good to be able to go there. So the question is if we can go. As I mentioned on the beginning, we have sent astronauts to space, but it was only to that station, International Space Station, and a few others before, like Skylab, Mir. And but we learned a lot from that, because we know that spending a lot of time in microgravity, which is exactly the environment there, muscles and bones density decreases, so it is very unhealthy, and astronauts are exposed to radiation, especially when they go for a spacewalk like this one, where they have to fix something to repair the station, or for example change lenses of Hubble Space Telescope. They are exposed to extreme temperatures, like from minus 140 to plus 150 degrees of Celsius, depending if they are in the sunshine or in the in the shade of Earth. And there's nothing to protect them against radiation, so the more time they spend, the higher risks of getting cancer later in their life. This is already very well-known phenomenon, and one of the most important factors that determined why we didn't go to Mars yet. So from radiation are very fast particles that originating from sun corona and from center of our galaxy, where we have probably a black hole. These particles are very fast. They are running with or flying around close to Earth. They can reach speed of up to 1,200 kilometers per second. And when they hit human body, many of them is stopped in ozone layer, but some of them can reach Earth, which happens very rarely. But if you leave Earth and stay on Earth orbit, or when you travel to Mars, then there is nothing to protect us against this radiation. And when those particles hit human body, they can rip apart DNA chain and increase odds of getting cancer later in life. This is already this was especially tested when Scott Kelly, the guy on the left, spent 1 year in space, and his twin brother, was also a NASA astronaut, was on Earth. And when he came back, NASA scientists could compare their bodies, and we know already that even gene expression has changed. So if we want to send humans to Mars, we have to learn how to protect them against radiation, but it's doable. So Mars One project, how in Mars One project are we going to do it? First, we want to send to Mars a lander, something like this one. Is a lander similar to the one that was sent to Mars in 2007, which was called Phoenix, and is famous because discovered near surface iced water. and one of the first best proof that there is water on Mars, however in form of ice. This lander has a little excavator here, sorry, and with this excavator we'll collect some loose soil from Mars surface, deregolate it and put in one of experiments here, warm it up so water can evaporate, we'll collect steam, and then with electrolysis we'll split it into its constituents, hydrogen and oxygen. And in that way we'll show that we can produce oxygen on Earth. We can mix it with nitrogen and argon, which is already in the Martian atmosphere, and produce breathable air. So we don't have to take it with us from Earth. And if we have water from ice, we can also use it to drink it. If this mission is successful, it will be a green light for next steps of the mission, which is sending 6 cargo landers to Mars with life support system, backup life support system, living units, rover, and everything what is required to survive on Mars. We will be sending everything every 2 years, starting from 2020, when we send the lander, because every 2 years we have a launch opportunity. Mars and Earth are close to each other, and then is the best time to fly from Earth to Mars. So in coming decade, we will be sending to Mars all these things. Also, living units, like the one which is here, inflatable units where Mars astronauts will live. You can see also 3,000 square meters of solar panels required to produce electricity. Mars is not so far from sun, so we have enough sunlight to produce electricity from solar panels, like we do on Earth. And with 2 landers there, you can see little landers. They will be in the same way as I showed in that slide with landers and explained the experiment. They will be producing breathable air and water. They will produce about 600 kilograms of oxygen and 3,000 liters of water, and will keep a breathable atmosphere inside the living units. This will be running for 1 year. And so at that moment, there will be no humans on Mars yet. We just want to test the technology, make sure that it works and it's safe. And once we are happy with this, then we will send humans to Mars. Inside those units, this is just a design or artistic vision of the living unit. So you can see here a little greenhouse, all plant production unit. It will be not enough to feed 4 people, but it can have important psychological effect, that we have something green, something fresh to eat, not only cans or things like this or dried, freezed food. But you can see it's very, very confined environment, and the most important thing to make the mission successful is not to solve some technological engineering problems, but to find the right stuff for people who can stay together in such small space for a very long time, and they will not kill each other. They will be still nice and will be able, under huge stress and in this harsh environment, they will be able to stay together. And how long? In Mars project is a mission of permanent settlement. So which means that if I go there, I stay there till the end of my life, because it's cheaper. And even if I have an opportunity to come back to Mars, to Earth, if there is a return rocket, because cheaper means that we don't have to invent or build a return rocket that can launch from Mars and fly to Earth. This is the problem that we have. We can launch from Earth, we can fly everywhere in solar system, but we have no mission control center on Mars that can help us to take off and fly to Earth back. So that's why we are planning to stay there. But I think for me it's very exciting because, as I mentioned on the beginning, we have underground water on Mars. And 3 billion years ago, conditions on Mars were very similar to conditions on Earth at the time when life formed on Earth. So there was water circulation in the atmosphere. And we know already that wherever water is on Earth, there's life there. So if we had for a long enough time water circulation and water presence on Mars, this means that life could evolve there as well. We know that today there is no life on Mars, but at that time could evolve, and maybe we can find some fossils and answer to the most interesting questions, philosophical questions and questions of science, if we are alone in the universe. So another important thing will be to be able to produce everything what we need from local resources. Here you can see a project, one of the best designs of a habitat made from local resources. This is a 3D printed habitat. You can see a 3D printer here, and is made out of only things that are available on Mars. And we have to be able to produce everything from in situ resources, because sending stuff from Earth to Mars is, again, too expensive and makes such project impossible to realize. And now a few words about things that are happening, that are initiated by UAE Space Agency and UAE government. Mars Hope mission. It will be launched in 2020 at the same time as Mars Lander. But it's unmanned mission, as you can see, is a satellite. I think many of you are aware of this project, of this mission. Worth to mention is that this will be most sophisticated orbiter sent to Mars. On board we'll have as many experiments as all other satellites orbiting Mars today, and will be able to will help us learn more about Mars atmosphere, and will help also to organize manned mission. Another important thing happening here in the UAE is a project of building a Mars city, or a mock-up of Mars city here near Dubai, which is a part of another bigger project which aims to build a city on Mars by 2117. So UAE government is actually the first entity which announced that they are going to build city on Mars. So it's serious commitment, and the city, Mars city on Earth, will be important and to test the technology. The more we learn, the more successful will be what we will be trying to do on Mars. Apart from this, worth to mention is SpaceX, a company which is building return rockets. You can see here two boosters. They are not launching, they are landing simultaneously. This is just 30 minutes or 15 minutes after a launch of spacecraft that sent a cargo mission to International Space Station. And the same technology can be used to land on Mars. That's why it's so important, and that's why so many space agencies are talking about missions to Mars, because with return rockets, reusable rockets is much cheaper, and that's why it's possible for governments. And I would like to finish with this picture made by the Curiosity rover from Mars surface. The picture was taken 2 years ago, a few minutes after sunset on Mars, and it shows Earth. And for me, it's very important, because it can give you a feeling of what I feel when I think about me leaving Earth and going to another planet to spend the rest of my life there. When you look at Earth from such distance, you don't see borders, you don't see wars and all bad things that make headlines. You just see a little dot, and this is where we live, and this is the place where everything happens, and it doesn't, so it's very difficult to express this, but this changed the distance to problems and good and bad things that are happening every day in my life, because I have in mind that there is something bigger going to happen. And I think in 15 years, maybe 20, if there is some delay, but for sure during our life, humans will land on Mars, and this will dramatically change our perspective of everything what's going on Earth for, I hope, all people. Thank you.